Well, welcome to the Black Madonna Speaks with me, your host, Stephanie Georgiev. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me, and I want to thank all of my viewers and Patreon supporters for supporting this channel. Every like, every subscription, every prayer, every penny is vitally important to the production and sustaining of this endeavor. At the time of the posting of this episode, we're in the thick of Advent, as they say. We are in the third week of Advent, and today, the 12th of December, is the fourth day and feast day of the Festival of the Virgin of Guadalupe. So for the focus on this episode, we will visit one of my absolute favorite mestizo Madonnas of the Americas, the Virgin of Guadalupe of Mexico. Her story is one of great significance for our times. In fact, I wrote a book on the subject. The Virgin of Guadalupe, Mysterious Messenger of Destiny, and presented on the topic at the April Sophia Conference in New Mexico this year on the subject. If you would like a recording of my talk and the transcripts, a $5 donation to my PayPal will get you the link. The book is available on Kindle as well as through Audible, Barnes & Noble, and Amazon. As a person who was born in the USA, I notice that we often look to other continents for our spiritual traditions. There's a wonderful interest in traditions such as Hinduism, Buddhism, and Islam, which are widely practiced and have also originated in Asia and the Arab continents. Obviously, Christianity and Judaism have their origins in the Holy Land. But what are the traditions in the Americas? The reason I have such a special place in my heart for Guadalupe is that she is an inherently American, meaning from the Americas, which include North, Central, and South America. She is an American Madonna. There are so many streams that Guadalupe represents, but basically her symbolisms, her apparitions, everything about her are invitations from the divine to go forward in our collective evolution. We are going to explore just a bit of Guadalupe in this segment, and I hope you are inspired to delve deeper into this most healing of Madonnas, the Virgin of Guadalupe of Mexico. Symbolism is the language of the mysteries. In fact, it is the language not only of mysticism and philosophy, but of all nature. For every law and power active in universal procedure is manifested to the limited sense perception of man through the medium of symbol. And this quote is by Manly P. Hall. In order to fully comprehend the entirety of the miracle of the Virgin of Guadalupe, I will give an abbreviated review of the narrative of her apparitions and miracle, which will prove helpful in understanding the importance of this mestizo Madonna of the Americas. I invite you, my listeners and viewers, to read the Nican Mapahoa if time permits. It is widely available on the internet and in many books. The Nican Mapahoa is the epic Nahuatl poem telling of the entire miracle of Guadalupe. Please enjoy this following very brief summary of the historical events of Tepeyac, and Tepeyac is where these miracles occurred. On the dawn of December 9th, 1531, native Nahuatl Juan Diego started walking to attend Mass in what is now Mexico City. He was a voluntary convert to Christianity who was widowed and left childless. He heard beautiful music and saw flowers and unearthly lights and was greeted by a beautiful lady. Her question to him was, "Where are you going?" He replied that he was going to Mass. She requested that he go to the bishop because she wanted a church, a temple to be built for her. He protested that he was not good enough to do such a task, but she told him that he was and implored him to do this request. He went to the bishop, who was skeptical and asked him to return on another day. On his way back, he passed Mount Tepeyac, and the Virgin appeared to him again and asked him how it went. Juan protested he was not worthy to do such a task and to send someone else. She told him to try again, and the next day Juan went to see the bishop and retold him the story of the Virgin. The bishop did not believe Juan and asked him to bring a sign on his next visit. The Virgin again appeared to Juan Diego as he walked home. He again implored her to find someone else to do this task. He told her he was totally unworthy. She countered that only he could do this errand and encouraged him to try again on the next day. The following day, Juan's uncle, Juan Bernardino, fell ill, and Juan Diego decided to stay home and care for him instead of going back to the bishop as he told the Virgin he would. His uncle's disease progressed through the night. Juan Bernardino was sure he was near death and requested that Juan Diego find him a priest. Juan Diego left at dawn to summon a priest for the last rites. Not wanting to encounter the Virgin again, he took a different route to the church. She appeared to him on this new route and asked him where he was going, and he replied that his uncle was ill and that he would do her bidding on the following day. She replied to him that his uncle was healed, to not worry, and to go to the top of the hill, to Tepeyac, and to bring her what he found there. Juan Diego went to the top of the hill and found roses in the midst of marvelous colors of the dawn and sounds of music. He picked the flowers and brought them to the Virgin in his tilma. The tilma is an agave fiber poncho garment common to peasants of the day. The Virgin gathered them to her face to smell them and then bid him to go to the bishop. By this time, the bishop's servants were annoyed with Juan's insistence. They had been sent to follow him in order to prove that he was lying, and they lost track of him. As a result, an argument ensued when Juan Diego went to see the bishop. Juan entered the room and opened his tilma to present the flowers to the bishop. At the instant of the opening of the tilma, the Virgin appeared on the garment as the image we still see to this day. The bishop fell to his knees, invited Juan to come inside to his residence and listen to his story. Later, Juan Diego's uncle came to the bishop and told him the Virgin had healed him. When Uncle Bernardino was asked what her name was, he said she called herself Guadalupe, the mother of all who would love me. For several days after the tilma imprinting event, Juan Diego and Bishop Zumarraga discussed the event. After several days of reflection and discussion, the image was taken to the public and greeted with much fanfare, especially from the natives. There was dancing and singing and an exuberance not experienced in many years. The natives en masse sought both the image and conversion as a result of the tilma. Chroniclers reported entire families would walk for miles and days to come to Tepeyac, where there were pairs of priests posted around the mount. Daily, the priests would baptize the throngs of natives from dawn to dusk. 9 million recorded baptisms occurred in the decade following the apparition. The Virgin of Guadalupe was and is the modern world's most successful Christian evangelizer. We will come to appreciate, as we explore the symbolism of the image of Guadalupe, the profound message of hope and our future destiny as humans, which she reveals with grace and elegance. The time of every aspect of this event is important in understanding the messages from the spiritual world conveyed through this image, which is still on display at the Basilica of Guadalupe in Mexico City. At the time of this broadcast, there's an epic celebration going on in all of Mexico City, which shuts down between December 9th and 12th every year. If you can ever go to Mexico City for this celebration, I highly recommend it. It's one big street festival with food, dancing, and lots of love, inspiring everyone to acts of kindness. The timing of the original apparitions and the imprinting of the tilma are very significant, and I go into them at length in my book, The Virgin of Guadalupe, Mysterious Messenger of Destiny. For those of you who donate $5 to my PayPal, you will get a chapter on this included with the video of my talk, which was presented last April. Understanding the messages of the stars that they were conveying in 1520 and 1531 gives us further insight to the miracle of the apparition of Guadalupe. For now, we're going to be reviewing other cosmic phenomena leading up to and in tandem with the original Guadalupe event. There were several calendars for the Aztecs and natives of the day and to this day, one for ritual, one for yearly dates, and a long calendar for the age. According to the Aztec calendar of the period, a cycle was coming to the end. A specific calendar dates for the apparition, which are December 9th through 12th, 1531, these dates were called by the Aztecs the Feast of the New Fire. This feast was at a time of new beginnings, and it was also considered a time of new beginnings, akin to the Christian Easter. According to the Julian calendar, December 12th, 1531, was the date of the winter solstice. The winter solstice to the natives was a celebration of the coming of the light. In Aztec cosmology, the world was to end with 4 earthquakes. In 1531, there were 3 devastating earthquakes in and around Mexico City. Halley's Comet, obviously known by another name to the natives, had passed through the skies in 1531. In the months before the apparition of Guadalupe, there was a complete eclipse of the sun. Such eclipses were known to the natives as the moon eating the sun. During the days of human sacrifice, a justification for the ritual murders was to appease and nourish the gods. The moon and the sun were seen as adversaries by the Aztecs, and they believed that the moon and the sun needed the blood and heart of victims in order to be appeased. The Aztecs believed that when these rituals were performed, then cosmic harmony would ensue. The murderous rituals had ceased with the Spanish conquest. Considering all the oppression, sickness, and natural disasters happening in the years leading up to the Guadalupe event, culminating with a concurrent eclipse, the unease of the natives was justified. They saw the Spaniards as upsetting the natural order of the universe. The Spaniards stopped the sacrifices, which the natives had reasoned had resulted in a great war of the old gods against the Aztecs. The populace knew the world as they understood it was finished. The Aztecs reasoned that the lack of human sacrifices caused their gods to abandon them, or worse, proved that their gods were dead. The natives felt utterly abandoned, worthless, and hopeless, and their stars and calendars supported this move. The astronomical fact contributing to the native comprehension of Guadalupe was a great Venus-Sun transit in the years before the apparitions. Venus was significant in the Mayan and Aztec civilizations and considered as relation to Quetzalcoatl in many parts of Mexico at the time. Transits of Venus across the disk of the sun are among the rarest of planetary alignments. Only 6 such events have occurred since the invention of the telescope, one in 1631, then 1639, 1761, 1769, 1874, and 1882. The transits usually occur in pairs spanning 8 years. The last modern transit of Venus was on June 6, 2012. There are references in Mayan art that survived the Spanish invasion, documenting such a Venus transit in the 1300s. 1518 through 1526 were the dates related to the last transit before the invention of the telescope, which also occurred right before and during the Cortes invasion of Mexico. The period of the transit of Venus is seen as one of revolution, a transformation of human consciousness, ultimately a time of the heart and outpouring of love upon the earth. Venus was the symbol of love and harmony to the natives and was the basis of the Aztec ritual calendar. To the Europeans, Venus is the symbol of the Virgin Mary and the divine Sophia. In power with the sun, a Venus transit is seen as a coupling and empowering of divine love with all the energies of the sun. It is a time of awakening of the mind and heart to knowledge, art, and beauty. Over an 8-year period, the retrograde cycles of Venus around the sun forms the shape of a pentagram, the 5-pointed star. The measurement between each retrograde peak is a 72-degree mathematical aspect called the quintile. To astrologers, the quintile's influence is one of creative transformation. This is also the basis for the incredible geometry of the rose windows of the Gothic cathedrals. We could also look at this astronomical fact as creating an opportunity for harmony and balance through creative transformation. All cosmic and historical events leading up to the apparition of Guadalupe pointed to a great change coming to humanity. No one could have predicted the sublime way that the spiritual world was about to initiate such changes in the December of 1531. We are in very similar times this Advent, this December of 2022. Something new is being born. We are in the birth pangs of a profoundly new era. We had a Venus Sun transit in 2012. Remember that year was supposed to, quote, be the end, quote unquote? I remember the memes saying most boring apocalypse ever. But was it? Look at everything that's happened since then. Yes, there has been great, unimaginable upheaval since then. But I would argue, in addition to all the chaos, there has been a deep upsurge of love happening on the planet. We are recognizing our interdependence on one another and how important kindness is, not only to others, but for our own development. I am currently here in Eastern Europe, just a few hundred miles from unspeakable horrors. And yet, for the first time in its history, this continent has opened its hearts and homes to those fleeing war in Ukraine. Almost 1 million men have left Russia, their lives, their families, because they do not want to be forced to kill others. These are profound events, as are those going on in other parts of the globe, protesting in Iran, both men and women, to end the oppression of females, the protests in China, and so on. All of these acts are of profound love. It is up to us to make sure the changes coming will usher in a new age of the beloved community. I am reflecting this Advent and this day, the Festival of Guadalupe, on how I want to create this beloved community, both in my relationship with the spiritual world, as well as with my immediate community and the broader scope of humanity. The message of Guadalupe is one of universalism, that we are all equal in the eyes of divinity. We all have the potential to create space within our hearts as well as in our surroundings, so that divinity, divine love, can be the rule of the world. When I hear about all the spewing and negative messages of vitriol and violence being perpetrated towards others, I wonder, what would the counter to this be? When somebody suffers a public loss, say from a personal tragedy, instead of social media hurtling insults and threats of violence, what would the loving counter to this be? There's an amazing phenomenon happening right now as we speak. I subscribe to the Earth Sky newsletter from NPR segments and the Earth Sky News of earthsky.org. I was particularly intrigued by the latest update on the December night sky, which reads, quote, "When astronomers saw an immensely bright flash of light in deep space earlier this year, they naturally wondered what caused it. Now they say the flash, brighter than 1,000 trillion suns, originated from a jet of material shooting from a supermassive black hole. They say the black hole was likely devouring a star, and the flash of light was so bright because the jet of light is pointing towards Earth," unquote. Black holes in the universe are the ultimate nothing. They are what is left when stars collapse, but they are also where substances of new life emerges. For me, this is so interesting that such an event, the death of a star, but the flash of light and particles of new life, are being focused directly on Earth right now. I feel that the Black Madonna in general, due to their colors and symbolizations, symbolize the transformational nature of manner, of the vast galaxies and their relation to the earth. I hope the messages of Guadalupe, along with our current Advent night sky phenomena, are inspiring you to create something new within your hearts. Until next time, this is Stephanie Georgiev saying thanks for listening, liking, and sharing. And I wish you many blessings on this day of Guadalupe and on your Advent journey.